We will do that. We know more people will be joining us as we go, but we've got a good crowd amassed, and I want to make sure I honor everybody's time. So welcome everyone. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Kathy Stevens. I'm the Executive Director here at McHale. We are the Coalition for Connected Community, and we provide support to grow the English language network of classes all across the county. And English is important for so many reasons, in people's daily lives, but certainly civic engagement is one of those things that we hear time and again from all the learners, that they really want to know and learn English so that they can be better engaged in their communities, and certainly voting is a part of that. So this is a program that we put together. We have a panel of 3 speakers tonight. I want to welcome all of our guests, and I'll be introducing them in just a moment, but I also want to introduce the McHale staff that's here. Rudy Jung is here with us. She's our Director of Programs. If you have questions, please go ahead and put those in the Q&A box, and Rudy will be addressing those to the panelists at our certain Q&A times, and I'll go through the agenda in just a moment. And then huge thanks to Monica Casañas and Marika Cartas, who are my colleagues at McHale, who are way better at all the tech stuff than I am. So they're doing the behind the scenes tech stuff for us this evening. Tech stuff. I can't even say the specific terms. But we're glad to have everybody. And this panel tonight, Monica, do you want to go ahead and share our guest speakers and agenda slides? Thank you. Perfect. We are going to have just about an hour to hear from our 3 panelists, and starting us off is going to be Dr. Gilberto Zelaya, and Dr. Zelaya is with the Montgomery County Board of Elections, and he is going to go through some general voting information first, and he has a pretty detailed PowerPoint that he's going to share, and there may be a way afterwards that we can link that up via website or Dropbox or something for you. We'll let you know on that, because I'm sure it will be full of great details. And then we will move from hearing from Dr. Zelaya. We'll have some question and answer period on any of the things that he's presented. And then we're going to hear from Councilmembers Gabe Albornoz and Councilmember Evan Glass on some of the county ballot questions that are up for vote this year in this election cycle. So we know there's a lot going on with how do you vote safely, how do you vote, what do you vote on, all that. So I am going to go ahead and turn the floor to Dr. Zelaya, and I think he's going to go ahead and share his PowerPoint on the screen, and we're going to get some general voting information from Dr. Zelaya. So great.
Okay, good evening everyone. Hopefully you're all doing well and safe at your homes. I'm Gilberto Zelaya with the Montgomery County Board of Elections. I am the Community Engagement Public Information Officer. I joined the board in 2003. So we'll get into the nitty gritty. In order to participate in the franchise, you must be registered to vote. The voter registration deadline is actually next week. It's Tuesday, October 13th, and that's a postmark deadline, which means if you mail us your voter registration application, it needs to be at least postmarked by the 13th by the postmaster. And even if we receive it a couple days after the fact, we are obligated to process it. There's multiple ways in joining the franchise. The quickest, easiest is texting the word vote to 77788, vote to 77788. But you must have a Maryland driver's license, permit, or ID. We do recognize that not everyone has that, and if so, you could go to our website at 777vote.org, and you could download the applications in English, Spanish, Korean, traditional, or simplified Chinese. For assistance, you could call us as well as at 240-777-8500. Keep in mind we're kind of popular lately, so there's going to be a wait. But you can also email your question to elections@montgomerycountymd.gov. We are open to the public Monday through Fridays from 8:30 to 5 p.m. And if you need to, if we're located in Gaithersburg, Maryland, you can make an appointment at the Motor Vehicles Administration to register to vote. And once again, the postmark deadline is October 13th, which is next Tuesday. Now, anytime there's any life changes, got married, divorce, upsized or downsized, party affiliation change, we really don't need to know any of the details. We just need the updated information so we could update your record. There's an urban myth, the post office, even if your beloved credit cards is forwarded to your new address, things like your sample ballot or even ballot or information sent by the Montgomery County Board of Elections or the State Board of Elections will not be forwarded to your new address. So please do your part and keep your voter record current. You could check you could review or update your voter record by texting the word check to 77788 or visiting our website or calling us for assistance. As of Saturday, we have a total of 663,311 registered voters. If you do text the word check to 77788, there's a menu of options that you could leverage via the Maryland State Board of Elections voter lookup. I think the three significant tools would be to review your voter record, also see the status of your mail-in or provisional ballot submission, and view your sample ballot. About 2 weeks ago, everyone was mailed a sample ballot. If for whatever reason your dog ate it or you recycled it accidentally, you could download another copy by visiting the voter lookup prompt. Now, if for whatever reason, if you missed the voter registration deadline of next Tuesday, October 13th, you could leverage same-day voter registration during early voting and on election day. You need to bring a paycheck, bank statement, utility bill, or other governmental ID with your name and current Montgomery County address, or you could bring your Maryland driver's license, permit, or ID. Now, what's very important to note as well is we are recommending our voters to vote by mail. Obviously, we're meeting via Zoom in this virtual world because of COVID-19. You could request your vote by mail ballot by texting the letters VBM to 77788, or you could download an application from our website at 777vote.org. So far, over 300,000 mail-in ballot applications have been received, which means that they've received at the Board of Elections, but we have processed over 283,000. And actually this afternoon, these numbers are outdated, I apologize. We actually have processed over 300,533. And the Maryland State Board of Elections have mailed out over 299,000 mail-in ballot packets. Now, by all means, please make a vote plan, review your sample ballot, go on our website. We know there's a lot of static, a lot of noise and concerns about the USPS Postal Service. By all means, by the time early voting initiates, we will have a total of 50 ballot drop boxes around the county. Right now, we have about 25. All of the locations are listed on your sample ballot, but also you could go to our website to get the latest and greatest listing of available ballot drop boxes. Please do not hesitate in returning those mail-in ballots. We will initiate canvass tomorrow, and the more ballots we have in-house, the more we could process and the more we could incorporate and scan your ballot into the final count for results on November 3rd. But by all means, we will not be finished before Election Day by any stretch of the imagination. Having said that, at the ballot drop boxes, we do have bipartisan teams picking up ballots daily. And as we near early voting or Election Day, it would be, we will increase said frequency. So locations like, let's say, Silver Spring Civic Building in downtown Silver Spring, we will visit those boxes 2 to 3 to 4 times a day as we near early voting and Election Day. Our bipartisan teams will empty out those boxes. They're under 24-hour surveillance. This count is old, actually. The actual count right now, we have about over 17,000 mail-in ballots inside the here at the Board of Elections that we will incorporate into our canvass starting tomorrow morning. Now, if you're interested in observing the canvass, we do have in-person canvass observation. We do highly recommend also, we will have a live feed. If you go to our website, 777vote.org, we will have a link where you could click and you could observe from the comfort of your home, desktop, laptop, cell phone. But if you have a desire to come, go to our website, 777vote.org, and you could reserve a 2-hour slot to observe. Those 2 hours will start at 10. And so from 10 to 12, 12 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6 will be our opportunity. We have approximately 12 slots for the public, 3 slots for the press, and then 2 slots, 1 for each central committee member. Nonetheless, once our bipartisan teams will visit each drop box, they will remove any corresponding tamper tapes and seals and tags. They will document said tamper tape, seals, and tags. If you look at the second image, the staff person is documenting what is removed from the box. Each individual will have a set of keys. They will open the ballot drop box. They'll empty out the said box, and then they will adhere new tamper tapes, new tags, new seals. These ballot boxes are under 24-hour surveillance. We have worked closely with the corresponding authorities, including the County Department of Homeland Security, County Security, County Police, and if a ballot drop box is located in a municipal election like Rockville or Gaithersburg, we're also working with their corresponding police department. And so there'll be 24/7, there'll be a set of eyes on each ballot drop boxes. These things weigh between 400 to 500 pounds. They're made out of galvanized steel. And so no one's really going to pick these up and take it with them. But they're under surveillance 24 hours, 7 days a week. And as a public health measure, when we swing by to pick up the ballots, we will wait 24 hours before we start processing and checking them in. I apologize, these numbers are old. As of this morning, we have over 17,000 ballots in-house. But nonetheless, there's over 275,000 ballots circulating. So if you're one of our procrastinators, please vote your ballot and send it back. The quicker we get it in-house, the quicker we can batch and scan in, and the quicker we can incorporate them into our canvas. So once that 24-hour clock rings, then we will date stamp, sort, and batch, and also scan. If you look at that bottom right-hand corner image, that's actually my ballot from the primary elections. And if you text the word check to 77788, what's really great about the system is you could follow the designation of your ballot application submission when it was received, when your actual ballot was mailed, and say hypothetically when it was scanned in. And that evening, the State Board of Elections will upload the new record to your voter record. And that designation where it's square boxed in red says ballot received, and also when it was introduced into the canvas. So it's one less call to the Board of Elections. You could follow the lifeline, the timeline of your ballot submission from submitting your application to it being mailed, to it being returned back, and it incorporated into the canvas. Now, talking about the canvas, once it's scanned in, it's going to be batched and introduced into our bipartisan canvas teams. 1 Democrat, 1 Republican, 1 Democrat, 1 unaffiliated. Even our staff are bipartisan, and we will process and we will canvass those ballots. And when I say canvass, to be incorporated into the count and tabulated, and those results will be provided election night after all vote centers have closed in the state of Maryland. Once again, we will initiate canvass October 6th. Historically, it would have initiated on Thursday, November 5th. But because of the sheer amounts of ballots, we have been granted permission to start early. We have a desire to complete scanning in the month of November. The State Board of Election must convene and must receive outcomes for the 24 counties in Baltimore City, because the Electoral College also needs to convene. Having said that, if for whatever reason you're not requesting or you don't have a desire to vote by mail, we will have in-person voting. It will be limited, but during early voting from October 26th, which is a Monday, so from Monday the 26th of October through Monday the 2nd of November, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., we have 11 early voting locations. The locations are the Damascus Community Center, the Germantown Community Center, Activity Center at Bower Park, the Executive Office Building, the Potomac Community Center, the Sandy Spring Fire and Rescue, the Wheaton Library and Community Rec Center, the Mid-County Community Recreation Center, the Janie Lawton Community Center, the Silver Spring Civic Building, and the Maryland Praser Community Center. Having said that, you're not tied to any particular early voting center. I recommend you, and I highly recommend that you visit our website at 777vote.org for the latest wait times. You could also, as we near early voting, you could text the word EV for early voting and your zip code, and the system will give you the 3 closest early voting center and driving directions and the address and wait times. So hypothetically, if you live, let's say on University Boulevard in Silver Spring, and you see that the Wheaton Library has a 30-minute wait and the Silver Spring Civic Building has an hour wait, then I would highly recommend turning your automobile or taking public transportation to the Wheaton Library, because the wait time is much shorter, okay? But by all means, we've heard individuals mention on social media or in conversation that if I could shop at Target and go to Home Depot, I could vote in person. You could vote in person. We respect that decision, but it's not going to be like going to Target or Home Depot. We will control the flow of individuals in each vote center, whether it's on election day or during early voting. If 10 people go out, 10 people will come in. We will try our best to meet the demands, but keep in mind that if you drive by your corresponding vote center or early voting center and you see a long line, remember that Black Friday line of 100 people is not going to be the same as in the era of COVID during early voting, because we have to implement or add 6 feet or more of distancing between each voter. It's not going to be the same as in year past. So be patient with us. Be mindful of our election judges. They are there to serve you. And if you don't vote during early voting and you have a desire to vote on election day, we have consolidated our 248 precincts to 39 vote centers. The 11 early voting centers we talked about on the previous slide, they will be converted to vote centers. And then we have added a full complement of Montgomery County public high schools, except Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is right next door to the Wheaton High School. So we have the local high schools. And in addition, our board approved and was approved by the State Board of Elections to add the White Oak Senior and Community Recreation Center, the Nancy Dasick North Potomac Community Rec Center, and the Marriott Hotel Montgomery County Conference Center in Rockville. And so you have 39 locations where you can vote on election day. Once again, you're not tied to the closest location. Visit our website, 777vote.org, for wait times. And if you see that one location has a shorter wait time than the other, then I would recommend going to that facility. Also, if you did request to vote by mail, you need to follow through if you have a desire to vote in person after the fact. So even if you show up with your vote by mail packet, you don't have to share the story why, or you're going to have to vote a provisional ballot, period. If you requested to vote by mail, follow through, vote that ballot. If you have a desire to vote in person, you can, but you will vote a provisional ballot, adding additional considerable amount of time to your voting experience. There's paperwork, there's an application you need to fill out, etc. And in summary, voting twice is illegal in the entire state of Maryland, all the other 49 states, including the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. So if you're voting by mail, follow through, vote that ballot. If you're voting in person, make a vote plan and make sure you review your sample ballot so you know all of the locations. And for those individuals who have a desire to vote independently, you could also leverage the ballot marking device. When you do vote in person, the check-in judge, after checking in, will provide you an opportunity to either vote the traditional cardstock ballots, which is the one that if you request to vote by mail, it's the longer cardstock format. You will get 2 pages. It's double-sided, or you could leverage the ballot marking device and you'll be given an activator card. And essentially it's a touchscreen, and you could toggle and you can navigate through the touchscreen and you can make your selections. What's great about the system is for voters with special needs, or maybe a lot of the voters that you serve, let's say if they're literacy in English and Spanish, if they're not from a Latin American country, let's say they're from another country and they're not too comfortable with English, they could listen to the audio and they could speed it up and slow it down. Also, there's high or low contrast in grayscale, so a colorblind voter could select a grayscale, black and white, to look at the ballot. If I remove my ballot, I can't read the font, so if you want to, you could magnify the ballot up to 35%. And if you're blind or have any challenges with vision, you could leverage the audio tactile keypad. It has Braille. And so you could do a combination, and those individuals that may be paraplegic or use sip and puff equipment to communicate or to be mobile, you could actually connect your sip and puff equipment to the ballot marking device, and you could leverage a combination of multiple options so you could vote independently. But nonetheless, if you need assistance, you could request assistance at the polls. Anyone could assist you, whether it's a poll worker or a volunteer or a family member, but that person cannot be a candidate on the ballot or a treasurer for said candidate or a manager or a supervisor, but anyone could assist you. And I know we talked about a lot of information. I do appreciate this opportunity. I will share this this PowerPoint, and so hopefully you didn't get too distracted with writing notes.
Wow, that's a lot of information, Gilberto. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I learned a lot there too. Thank you. Rudy, are there some questions you want to follow up with?
Yes, there was one question from one of our attendees, and I'll just read it out. I received my ballot in the mail, but my husband has not yet received his. We sent our requests in at the same time, and when I checked the election website, it says both were sent. But while my ballot came last week, my husband's has not yet arrived. What do we do?
So first of all, give it some time, because even though you submitted at the same time, you cannot assume that they were processed at the same time. So far, the state has mailed over 1.3 million ballots. And so even though your process was, processed at a certain time, maybe that afternoon, that was the cutoff, and that first mailer went out. So it could be that it's coming in the second mailer. So give it another couple of days, right? If by week's end, you have not received that second ballot, then you have multiple options. You could reapply by texting the letters VBM to 77788, or you could email absentee@montgomerycountymd.gov, and I'll put that in the chat. You could email absentee@montgomerycountymd.gov, your name, date of birth, mailing address, residential address, and now your mailing address if it's different than your residential address, and the rationale why. I have not received my ballot. I need a second issue ballot. We will process it and we'll mail you another one. My preference would be come to the Montgomery County Board of Elections in person. We have office hours Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5 p.m. We are implementing physical social distancing, so we're letting X amount of people inside our office. And you will submit your application. Just give us a couple of minutes. We will process. We will cancel that first application, and then we will give you a second issue ballot. And then we have some partitions. You could vote it, and you could submit it into the ballot box that same day.
Thank you. Another question, I requested to vote by mail. I received a sample ballot, but not the mail-in ballot itself. When should I expect it?
It depends when you applied. If you applied earlier in the season, then you should have received it. Same scenario as the first question. You could come to the Board of Elections. You could email, and I just put it on the chat, absentee@montgomerycountymd.gov, your name, date of birth, residential address, mailing address, and the rationale that I want my second issue ballot. Or you could text the letters VBM to 77788. I'm partial to coming here in person, but whatever your availability, we're here to serve.
Great, thank you. And I actually have a question. As Kathy mentioned, there's a lot of information there. I was wondering whether there is in existence a sort of one-pager with the key dates and things for many of our network, our program managers, instructors who are working with their learners, and it's useful to have like a one-pager or something, or information in other languages than English.
So everyone was mailed a sample ballot, and it's bilingual under Section 203 of the Voter Rights Act. That's number one. Number two, you could download this on our website. Also, we're either today or tomorrow, we have a series of frequently asked questions, and we have them in traditional Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Amharic, French, and Spanish. So we're just trying to find where they're going to put those FAQs. Once they have, I will share with Mikhail, so you could share with your participants. But we don't have like a sheet, because in this virtual world, we do have a hand card that's focusing on voter registration and on voting by mail. If you need some, we have some. You could swing by the office to pick them up. Other than that, everything is on our website, and we do leverage Google Translate. It's not the greatest mechanism, but you could use that and you could translate the information. But the FAQs would be key. And once we get that ready, I'll email you the links.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
There aren't any other questions, unless you have one, Kathy?
No, I was going to say this is really helpful for all of our program administrators and instructors to be able to pass on this information, because as you said, there's so much. And like I said, I learned some things about the text options. And so that's really convenient for many people to use. So we really appreciate that.
And also we recommend that you follow us on social media. We have a lot of like mini banners and posts, and we've been posting in different languages too. In Korean, traditional simplified Chinese, and Spanish. So you could also circulate those as well.
We certainly can. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, Gilberto, thank you. Nice to see you. And I know you've been doing hundreds of these. So yeah. You are certainly dismissed if you have to get to another one, because we're going to go to the ballot questions. But if you want to hang out with us, that's fine too.
I'll hang out. Okay. I'll just take the camera. I'll be listening. If there's any questions, I'll just jump in.
That's fantastic. So we're going to move now to talking about the ballot questions, which are specific to Montgomery County. And so I am so pleased to welcome two of my favorite council members, Gabe Albornoz and Evan Glass, who are kind of taking the lead on providing information on the ballot questions that are on the ballot this year. There are 4 of them, conveniently lettered A, B, C, and D, and they kind of go in pairs. So I'm going to ask Councilmember Albornoz to talk about the first 2, A and B, and then we'll have Evan talk about the second 2, C and D, the ones that deal with the makeup of the council, and Gabe's going to talk about the ones with the taxing implications. Is that right? I don't even know if that's right.
Yep.
I've been trying to understand them myself. So I'm pleased to introduce Councilmember Gabe Albornoz, one of our at-large council members. Gabe, take it away, and Evan, we'll get back to you.
Well, first, thank you, Kathy, for your leadership. Thank you, Mikhail, for all you continue to do to build bridges and to help connect our communities to so many vital services. The session tonight is just further evidence that Mikhail is not just connecting dots and providing programming, but helping to provide critical information that all of our residents need. And I do want to take a point of privilege. I love going after Dr. Gilberto Zelaya because he is such an absolutely outstanding public servant, and he is working day and night on behalf of all of our residents. And I am supremely confident that this is going to be a safe and secure election. It will certainly, as you would imagine, have some bumps here and there, but this will be a solid election thanks to Dr. Zelaya and all of his colleagues at the Board of Elections. So thank you, Dr. Zelaya, for all your work. And yes, Kathy, you teed it up perfectly. There are 4 local ballot measures on the ballot this year that I think is very important for county residents to focus on, to understand. This is obviously a federal election, and so much of the attention, as it should be, is on the presidential race and our congressional races. But there are 4 ballot measures that will significantly impact local residents one way or the other. And so I want to provide a little bit of background and context on questions A and B, and then turn it over to my colleague and friend, Councilmember Glass, to talk about questions C and D. But for context, in order to put an item on the ballot during an election cycle every 2 years, all you need is 10,000 registered signatures in order for you to be able to get a ballot measure on, which is a very low number. It's 1% of our overall electorate. And it's a number that is a relic of the past and something that we want to work with our state legislation and state legislators to address moving forward. But in the meantime, there are frequently ballot measures that are placed on the ballot because that threshold is so low that still require our attention and something that we must focus on. And that is particularly true for questions A and B. Let me preface this by saying the county has a very complicated tax code. And I will be the first to admit that prior to joining the council, I was not as familiar as I am now with all of the various elements of that tax code. But what I've learned over the last 2 years on the council is that our tax code is complicated on purpose. A previous council over 30 years ago, when the county had a different leadership model, placed into the charter, essentially, that the county has a cap in its ability to raise revenue that is set to the rate of inflation. The rate of inflation is notoriously slow and fickle, and so it was set to that rate on purpose for a variety of reasons. Now, the council has the ability to go over that cap to raise revenue under certain circumstances, and currently, if all 9 members of the county council vote unanimously to go above that cap, it gives the county the ability to raise taxes, to raise revenue. Now, why is that important? Because there are certain circumstances, like being in the middle of the pandemic, that really cause a number of challenges and really press on the social safety net services of our county residents. And the county in the last 12 years has actually only twice gone above that rate of inflation to raise revenue and to raise taxes. One was during the Great Recession between fiscal years 2008 and 2010, which was critical in order to get us through that time when thousands of county residents experienced job losses, and the economic challenges facing at the county at the time made it so that there was the possibility that the county was not going to be able to fulfill its obligations to pay its debt collectors for our capital projects. And so the county was forced to raise revenue to help right that ship. And it's important to note that when elected officials raise taxes, it is not something that is taken lightly. There is great political peril in order to do that. But at the time, the council felt strongly that given the emergency that we were in, it was appropriate to move forward. The second time that the county went above that cap, which again is arbitrarily set at a federal guideline that the county does not control, was when the county experienced a huge influx of a number of students into our school system. And we needed the infusion of additional revenue to help address the needs of a very significantly growing population within our school system. And the capital needs and the operating budget needs were critical, both morally, but also to ensure that the county continued to have the strong school system, which is key to economic development, key to property taxes, key in so many ways to the success of our county. And so, and that council paid a significant political price for that as well, because term limits passed the year after that. So question B on the ballot which was proposed by a gentleman named Robin Ficker, for those of you that may or may not know, is very aligned with Donald Trump and has been around the county for a number of years. If question B passes, it would in perpetuity not allow the council to raise taxes above that limit. And right now, even with 9 votes and unanimous votes, we would not be able to move forward. This would risk our AAA bond rating. This would risk the county's ability to address those social safety net services in an emergency as we are in now, and it would significantly set the county back. To offset question B, which would be devastating on a number of different levels to the county, question A has been proposed, and was developed by my good friend, Councilmember Andrew Friedson from District 1. Councilmember Friedson used to serve as the Chief of Staff to the Comptroller for the state of Maryland and is one of the most experienced and knowledgeable people I have ever met on tax issues at both the state and local level. And what Councilmember Friedson has proposed, which was supported unanimously by all 9 members of the County Council as well as the County Executive, would eliminate that arbitrary cap that is set at the rate of inflation and allow the county to set that cap. Now, it would still require a unanimous vote to go above a rate that is set by the county, but that rate would be set by Montgomery County policymakers that are much more familiar with economic development and opportunities before us. It's important to note that a broad coalition of supporters have gotten behind question A and are opposed to question B. The coalition that supports question A includes our chambers of commerce, progressive organizations, unions, and a broad coalition that understands that you get what you pay for. And so I strongly encourage you to educate yourself on questions A and B, and please consider supporting A, but opposing B. Thank you, Kathy. I'll turn it back to you.
Excellent. That's a very thorough explanation of it. I think there's still confusing aspects for people, but it is really because it has to do with taxes, of course. But Gabe, thank you. That was really well said and well put out there. I'm going to go ahead and unless Rudy, you tell me there's some immediate questions, why don't we get Councilmember Glass to go ahead and talk about questions C and D now, and then we can field any questions on all 4 ballot questions at that point. Evan, are you set to go to talk to us about C and D?
I am. I'm ready to go and appreciate my colleague, Councilmember Albornoz, for the thorough conversation about A and B. And I would be remiss if I did not wish you, Kathy, a happy birthday. So no better way to spend your birthday than talking about ballot measures and enfranchising all the residents of Montgomery County so that we can do the right thing in November and hopefully live in a more safe and secure world. But I know you're nonpartisan, so I'll leave it at that. And so questions C and D. Questions C and D are about the council makeup. And before I talk about what C and D will do, let me give you all just a really brief background as to how we got to this place, similar to how Councilmember Albornoz had started his conversation. The first county council was elected in 1970, and all 7 members were elected at large. And in that arrangement, 5 of those members were required to live in specific geographic regions, but everybody was elected at large. And that's the same way that we elect school board members today, for those of you who know how we elect school board members. Everybody gets to vote for them, regardless of where you live in the county, but they just have to live in a certain area. Then in November of 1986, voters chose to increase the number of council seats from 7 members to 9 members. And that ballot initiative passed, and that's the makeup that we still have on the county council today. And so in 1990, what was enacted was 5 members who have to live in council districts and 4 who are elected at large. And there was really one important element to that arrangement, and that is that every resident gets to vote for 5 members of the council, 4 at large and 1 from the district in which you reside, where you live. So fast forward today, and we know that residents have successfully submitted a petition to get it onto the ballot, which would eliminate the at-large positions and create 9 new districts. And on its face, it might seem that that is a sensible proposal, but I actually think it would be a step backwards. And let me tell you why. 30 years ago, after we made the change, we are on this precipice of change. And the reason 9 districts would be bad is because it would be a parochial system, where every district would simply look out for its own interest, not the better interest of the county. Another reason is that it's bad is that you would lose your voting representation. Right now, you get to vote for 5 members of the council, but if question D passed, you would only be able to get to vote for 1. So you'd lose 80% of your representation. And it was because of that that I introduced question C. And what question C would do is increase the size of the council by adding 2 districts. And so why do I think that we should increase the size of the council? Well, since the last council was restructured in 1990, the residential population of Montgomery County has increased by nearly 50%, 50. And that shift has resulted in us having some of the largest, most populated, largest districts in the entire DC region, with more than about 210,000 people per district. And so if we add 2 districts, it would put us more in line with some of the other jurisdictions in the DC region. And it would allow residents to maintain a very important component, which is being able to vote for 5 members of the council. And so I mentioned the size of other jurisdictions in the DC region, but let me share with you their makeup. The District of Columbia has 13 members of its Board of of its county council. There are 8 members in a district and 5 who are elected at large. And in Prince George's County, they had 9 districts for decades, which is exactly what question D wants to do. So they had question D, 9 districts for decades, and they realized that it wasn't working out that well. And so in 2018, they changed their system by adding 2 members of the council who are actually at-large members. So here we are trying to, some people trying to get rid of the at-large and create all 9 districts, but in Prince George's County, they did it that way for years and have changed by adding at-large members. And so closer to home, you know, there are a number of municipalities here in Montgomery County, and the 2 largest municipalities, the cities of Gaithersburg and the cities of Rockville, they actually elect all of their members of their council in an at-large fashion. And so I think that adding 2 districts is actually a step towards electoral progress by enhancing our responsiveness to a growing and rapidly growing constituency, while also maintaining a very key element in this conversation of your local government. And that is allowing every one of you to vote for more than 1 member of the county council. And so question C, my proposal to add 2 districts is, the council's proposal is supported by the Montgomery County teachers, by SEIU, by the Montgomery County Democratic Party, among many other groups. And also question D, 9 districts, all those groups oppose question D, as does former County Executive Ike Leggett and former Republican Congresswoman Connie Morella. So for all of those reasons, I think that question C, adding 2 districts, is a better alternative for the voters and for our democratic process here in Montgomery County. And so with that, Kathy, I will turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you. Again, there's a lot to consider there, and there's a lot, obviously Gabe and Evan gave very good overviews with the history and the context. There's a lot that's been written online too. If you wish to read more, of course, please, you know, do whatever research you want. But we're gonna see if there are any questions now. Rudy, do you wanna offer us any questions for the council members?
There was just one about what your recommendations, just a kind of a recap of what you recommend how to vote. Obviously, people will want to make up their own minds, but what is it that you are recommending just once more?
We are recommending voting for questions A and C and voting against questions B and D.
Okay, thank you. And I had a question. I did read the ballot measures, which I found quite confusing in language. So thank you very much for your explanations. It's been very helpful. Is there anything that you would recommend in terms of written materials that our network can refer their learners to that is a more clear explanation
So I would give two. The League of Women Voters actually has some explanations that I think are helpful, and typically provides a really strong voter guide that is appointment reading, which I think that's helpful. The Maryland and Montgomery, or I'm sorry, the Montgomery County Democratic Party also does have information available on the respective ballot measures. And as Kathy referenced earlier, there are websites that have gone up to allow folks to be able to educate themselves on these issues, which I think are two other resources.
And are you familiar with whether they have other languages available or material?
Yes, there will be multiple languages available. And our office has worked on translating specifically into Spanish. And I know that there's also work being done on Vietnamese, Chinese, and Amharic and French.
Great, thank you. And then Councilmember Glass, one question. Obviously, adding 2 districts will cost a little bit of money to the county. Can you speak to that, what the estimate might be?
Sure. So the cost of adding a council member and staff is approximately, I think it's somewhere around $650,000 a year. But to put that into context, we here in Montgomery County have been investing in our democracy in a lot of different ways. Right now, we are investing in mail-in drop boxes for everyone to safely cast their ballot, and each drop box cost a few $1,000s for this election. We also here in Montgomery County invest in public campaign financing to make sure that all of our candidates and all of our elected officials, or as many of them who choose to be, do not take any money from special interests. And that program here in Montgomery County costs a few $1 million every election cycle. And so, quite frankly, it will cost money for question C, but I think we need to invest in our democracy, and we need to make sure that every person is represented and that we represent as many people here in Montgomery County as possible. We have 1.1 million people, 4 of the 10 most diverse communities in the entire country. And we have a system that has not adapted in 30 years. And so I think we need to invest in our legislative branch as well.
Okay, thank you.
Great. If we can go ahead and get some of those translated materials whenever they're available, Gabe, we would appreciate it. And we will make sure that we provide those on our website and other means possible.
We will do that right away, Kathy. Thank you.
We appreciate it. And I know that our program managers and instructors will appreciate having that as well to share out in their classes and everything as they have these conversations with folks who may be voting for the first time. And this is a confusing time and an important time to be voting for the first time. So we do appreciate that. I will say too that Mikhail is a member of Nonprofit Montgomery, and Nonprofit Montgomery has taken a stand against question B for question A. They didn't really get into taking a stand on the C and D questions, but you can hear very well the analysis that Councilmember Glass has provided for us. And certainly as a member of that organization, we do endorse what they are saying as well. So, and as both council members indicated, there is more information than you could possibly digest, but I'd be happy to point people towards their different coalitions that have been developed and different things that have been written, not only in the Washington Post, but Bethesda Magazine and various websites on all of this. So there's a lot of good information out there.
I have a final question, actually, if I could, that's coming in. What can somebody do, what can somebody who is not a citizen do to help with the election?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I think, well, there's a lot of things. So certainly from an issue perspective, to educate people within their circle and network if there's either a ballot measure or a candidate that they in particular feel a connection to, letting their support for those candidates be known is of course important. There are always numerous volunteer opportunities, whether through a political lens, depending on people's political affiliation, either with the Republican or the Democratic Party, which are also ways to engage. And I think that it's pretty safe to say that we all benefit as a society when people vote. And I think that those that can't but would like to need to remind those of us that can but don't, that we need to vote, that we need to engage. And as the son of immigrants myself, I still remember the day my grandfather voted for the first time. I was young, but I just remember how emotional he was when he got home. And man, I'm gonna get emotional.
Yeah.
Wow, how meaningful it was to our family. And there's so much on the line in this election, from the top of the ballot to the bottom of it. So it's incumbent upon all of us to engage everyone. And thank you all so much for being engaged.
Well, thank you for your time. I know you all are very busy and we appreciate it. And thank you to all of our participants. We have, there are several websites you can visit, and maybe Monica can share that screen. Certainly the Board of Elections, and we'll put these on our website too, but the Board of Elections, League of Women Voters, there's information out there about the ballot questions as well. And we encourage you to contact us for additional information, but the websites are here on where you can find, and that's just one piece of information, the Bethesda Magazine article, but there are many more out there on that. And we will go ahead and try to post some links on our website for everyone, because I know this type of information you've got to digest and relook at and read at some point. And if there are questions that you didn't get answered tonight, these might be resources. I'm sure the folks in Councilmember Glass's or Councilmember Albornoz's office, they're handling constituent services, would be happy to receive emails and calls. I know Dr. Zelaya would as well, and we can help point you in the right direction. But I do hope this is helpful to take back to all of your colleagues, to your fellow instructors, to any learners in your class that are struggling with these issues. Maybe it becomes a good lesson to go through the sample ballot guide, and I hope this is useful, and encourage you all to use the resources that we've provided. So thank you again to Dr. Zelaya, to Council Members Albornoz and Glass, and thank you to my staff, of course, for helping us put together, and the staffs of the council members. Obviously, it's a team effort when we do any of this. So please have a wonderful rest of the evening. Stay safe and enjoy what's left of this beautiful day out there. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
And happy birthday, Kathy.
Thank you.
My daughter's birthday, Kathy. So.
Oh, another good birthday twin. Excellent.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Crystal Townsend's birthday, daughter's birthday is today too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right, folks, have a good evening.